My name is Rachel, and my primary home is in molecular biology, and in that department I teach biochemistry and a lot of microbiology courses, and primarily microbiology is where I find that I spend most of my time, and in the microbiology lab is one of my favorite teaching environments. And that's the environment that I want to talk to you a little bit about today, because it's a very active environment. The students do entirely hands-on, independent work. And in that environment, a lot of creative solutions to problems are innovated. And that's one of the things that is involving technology that is so cool that I hope to talk to you about today. So Snapchat and Instagram have become tools that have become necessities in the microbiology lab, and perhaps it seems like a strange bedfellow with a microscope to be using Snapchat, but it evolved over a period of a time. And so let me begin by what some of you might remember this. This was in February, and this is a picture of one of my students, DJ. He was taking a photograph through his phone, through the ocular lens of the microscope. And what you're seeing in that picture is he's got a negatively stained bacterium that is a bacillus, a rod, and so it looks like a white rod against a dark background. And so he's able to pick up that image exactly as it looks through his microscope, and he can actually archive it and save it and even put it into his laboratory notebook. So this maybe doesn't seem crazy stunning, but for us at first it was, because it used to be that we had this really huge, cumbersome inverted microscope that attached to a camera, and on a very special and rare day we would pull aside one of the students' good microscope slides, and we'd all run over to the inverted camera, and we'd take one photograph on the camera that was attached to that microscope, and then I would be able to take that from a card and import it onto my computer, and then they could get a photo. And so if a student was lucky, maybe once a semester, they would actually get a photo of what they had seen on their microscope. And so this idea of taking pictures with a cell phone was pretty innovative and pretty novel. And when students first started to do it, there was a little bit of difficulty because they would take all these photos and get really jazzed about it, and then they had no way to save them. That is, they didn't get them labeled right away, or they didn't have good archiving for them. And that's when we started to see the use of Snapchat. Now, I would like to claim that I was the one that came up with the idea of using Snapchat, but it absolutely was not me. So who has Snapchat on their phone? Okay, a few people in the room do, and you might want to actually bring up your Snapchat, because we're going to talk about how you can actually do this. It's probably got a huge amount of value in all kinds of courses, not just in microbiology lab. So Christy's going to be showing you how to use it here in just a little while. But the reason that students started to use Snapchat was twofold. First off, taking a microscope picture is hard. So it's kind of like a video game where the student has to actually really get you find the circle of light, right? So you take your phone and you kind of see the circle of light, and with a really steady hand you come closer and closer and closer to that circle of light, and if you're really good and really steady, you can then snap the picture. So it actually is almost like a video game in that it really takes a quick hand, good eye-hand coordination. It's really a skill set just to line up the camera with the microscope. So the Snapchat, apparently, as I'm told, is much easier. And apparently in Snapchat there's a slightly wider lens, and it's a little bit easier to align it with the microscope circle of light and get a good, solid picture. The other thing that began to appeal to the students about this was that once you've taken a Snapchat picture, you can actually easily archive it. So that is, you can label it. So if you happen to be looking at a picture of E. coli and Staphylococcus on the microscope slide, you can name it that and immediately save it with that name. So I'm going to show you the Snapchat interface on the cell phone, where you can see how the labeling works. This was a picture taken by one of my students and then TAs, Lauren. And so she's labeled this E. coli and yeast, and you can see in this image, the E. coli are the tiny little hair-like rods, and the larger oblong sort of spherical structures are the yeast cells, the Saccharomyces cerevisiae, just baker's yeast. And so she was able to then archive that and save it. And so who's got their Snapchat up, ready to go? Okay, all right. So Christy's going to come up here, and she's going to plug in, and she's going to show you how you would go about just saving it to the gallery. Yeah. Okay. So the photo that we're going to send to the Instagram site today is Rachel presenting about microbiology Instagram. And so we'll send that to the microbiology Instagram site. Right? So this picture is actually Bacillus subtilis with its endospores. So when the going gets tough, the tough form endospores, and these are the resistant dormant structures that are right there. So I appear to have Bacillus subtilis endospores.
This is where I'm making the label. So we're just going to say Rachel presenting. What do we say on Snapchat or on
Instagram.
Okay. And then I'm just going to move this down here. And then I'm going to push the little button over here on the left, and it's going to save it to my gallery.
Yeah, so it's just that center.
It's this one right here.
Center button. So if you hit that, because a lot of people think, who here thought Snapchat, it goes away? And that's the first thing that came to mind, right? It just goes away, and the whole beauty and point of the general use of Snapchat is that it goes away. But in this case, the point is that you can immediately label, and if you do save it to the gallery, it actually doesn't go away. It goes into your photos. And so it's just a really quick and easy way to archive it. So we're actually we're exploiting the Snapchat system is what we're doing. That's all right. Yeah.
How is that different from just sending it to Dropbox, or if you have an iPhone, just taking a picture, because you can neighbors? How's the difference?
Yeah, you can totally do that, and it works great. It's just that this is really fast, it's really speedy, and the students have assured me that it is the easiest way to take pictures. And maybe someone else knows why Snapchat, the lens is slightly different, but for some reason the lens aligns with the microscope better. Oh, that's fine, yeah. That's fine.
So we just have the picture, which is sideways, and I don't know why. We're just going to go through it. Right here is where it's important that where it says tag people. So this is one reason. This is what I want to do. This is one reason that we actually.
Microbio. So then just this last year, we started to realize that the students were accumulating this vast wealth of microscopy imagery. And I thought, man, I would sure love to begin to archive that in some way so that we could showcase all the beautiful visual images that the students are getting. And so one of my TAs decided that we should start an Instagram site. So that's what we did in order to hold on to all of these images, and then also to give the students a chance to win the epic photo contest. So we actually give them extra credit on the final exam if they get the best images. So they'll send these then to the Instagram site, and we've accumulated a lot of beautiful images on the Instagram site. And so once they've taken these and it's on their, it's been archived, they just go ahead and send it on, and they can do this immediately in the classroom, send it on to the Instagram site, which is...
Yeah, to answer your question a little bit, Linda, is the reason we're using Instagram is because they set up this Instagram site, which I can now send it directly to that, and I don't have to log in, I don't have to do anything to show up. So I'm going to go ahead and send that. That's why it's not a Dropbox. I don't have to share with anybody. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Send an Instagram site, and then anybody can access it.
Yep. In fact, right now, you guys, a lot of you are on computers. If you type in Instagram.com/wyomicrobio, WYOMICROBIO, wyomicrobio. And you'll start to see a lot of beautiful microscopy images. And so this is accessible to everyone, and we always love it when new people suddenly join it and start liking our images. And in fact, just yesterday, the TA who wanted to begin the Instagram site and now manages that site, she actually went running by my office and she's like, Rachel, I just noticed that there was a high school group in the micro lab today. Is anyone sending images to Instagram? So she was checking up on just any activity going on in the lab, making sure that somebody was sending the images along. So just a few on the top there. This is actually a throat culture that you can see there. This is Saccharomyces cerevisiae in a wet mount. Some capsule stains showing the outer layers around a Klebsiella cell. So just beautiful images that all accumulate, but they're able to, again, label them and send them off, and we can archive them. So it's a pretty cool visual way to let people know what we're doing in the microlab, but also for the students to keep record of what they have done. And I imagine, like, you know, I can see a few people nodding, and, you know, Alan, you're thinking how I can use this in other courses, because I think there are a lot of possibilities, even within, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking about even within coaching, if you want to take a quick snapshot of somebody's body position and body angles and then send that to a site, put markings on it, show them what their body angles are, and then talk about their technique. You know, this seems like another great use. So maybe in an acting class you're doing things like that. So it's a really cool way to just quickly archive things. And the other thing that comes about is that we know, and I know Brant knows this more than well, is that science is a lot about keeping good record of what you've done in the lab. And students struggle a lot with drawing good, accurate pictures of what they're seeing in the microscope. We also struggle a lot with documenting whether or not what they've seen is right. Like, are they seeing the slide, or are they seeing the dust on the lens? And when we can see a picture like this, and gosh, it saves my eyes too, right? Because I can look at the photo that they've taken and immediately tell them, yes, you're focused on the right thing, without having to look in 150 or 250 microscopes a day to check that. So it's a really cool way to see that what they're seeing is what they're supposed to see on the slide. And it's a cool way for them to document what they're seeing. And so that's the other thing that I wanted to show you, and I've got two methods for showing you. One of these is just a lab manual. This also is Lauren Lutz's manual that she's given to me to share with you. And she's taken the images that she took on her cell phone, and she's put them into her lab manual, so that the drawings that would have been sketches that may have been iffy at best as far as representing, you know, your E. coli and Saccharomyces stain, here is actually the photograph that she took. She cut it out and she pasted it in. And it's amazing how many of the students are doing that in order to keep track of what they've seen in the lab. So I'll pass that around. You can take a quick look of that. Of course, we're still pretty stuck in the world of science. Maybe we're a little bit antiquated in that we still value that hard-bound notebook, and we still teach students how to do that hard-bound notebook. So this is a really cool way that technology can interface with what is still considered tradition in a science lab. And I really like the way that it allows us to keep records. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and feel free to, oh, good, Christy did it. So notebook maintenance, and this is just a photograph taken of one of those where you can see these are actual photographs that they've taken and then made notes on them below. So I want to leave time for discussion and maybe thinking about how you might use this in some of your classes. It's maybe in summarizing One of the most important things about teaching is giving your students a problem to solve and then watching what happens. So when you create an environment that facilitates inquiry, a lot of times students do a really amazing job at finding novel solutions to problems. I'm definitely not the one that figured out how to take these photographs and how to get good photographs in the scope. But when the students saw me struggling to try to get them photographs using that old school inverted scope, they saw that as a challenge accepted, right? And they were able to say, man, Rachel, I know there's got to be a better way. And with the evolution of the smartphone, we've seen the students adapting those uses to really find ways to solve problems. But going back to the Boomerang article from this February, the subversive headline that they chose to use is "Cell phones are allowed in this class." And that is really the crux of it. Whenever we limit students and the resources that they have, and I'm sure all of you have seen the YouTube video of the professor who takes the cell phone and smashes it on the floor and then steps on it because he doesn't want to allow cell phone use in the classroom, is the exact opposite of catering to an environment that facilitates inquiry. Because as we restrict, and one of my sister's favorite things is to requote the Star Wars quote, right? The tighter you hold your grip, Tuck, the more solar systems will slip through your fingers. And if our students are our beautiful solar system, they do slip through our fingers all too often. So by embracing the technologies through which they find personal identification and inviting them to solve problems using those, we really create an environment of inquiry, and we really see novel solutions to problems and really cool learning. So I'll leave it at that and maybe invite questions and conversation, uses of technology in the lab. And also, those of you who I know are in lab settings, questions about the safety issues involved with that, if anybody has those. Yeah.
One of you started talking about tag. I don't think.
Yeah, the tag is just biomicrobiome. So if you have a picture and you're like, this is the raddest fungus I've ever seen, and you're up in the snowies, and you're like, yeah, I just want somebody to appreciate this sweet shroom, you know? You can go ahead and send it off to my Instagram site and tag it as biomicrobiome, and many people will be like, that is the sweetest fungus I've ever seen. So, you know, we can share it that way. So the tag is just about whether you want it to display on my site as a really cool micro image. And there are a lot of them in the environment too, and that's where we need to take our site at this point, is outside of the lab to photos of microbiology in the environment.
I also believe that I believe that the way this has it up is that you can send an Instagram picture to them and the direct message or tag it, but it doesn't necessarily automatically show up on the page until there's.
Right, she goes through it and she manages it.
Manages that.
Yeah.
Yep. And then yes or no.
She does.
Automatically go there, so you don't have to.
This is just a comment, but I guess Instagram is traditionally like compressed all of their images to a pretty low resolution or whatever. But I guess I read the other day that they're changing that to for their full resolution, like full 50. So I mean, it looks okay on a phone now, but I guess they'll switch it over and you can upload that.
Details, yeah. Where you go on the screen, but you're right.
Yeah.
And there's a limited ability to print them.
But that's what they're
fixing
that, yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
Are they all open source, or are they all other permissions?
It's open. So the students are choosing, you know, I don't feel uncomfortable sharing my image of a psilocybin, you know. So they're not, yeah, they're not.
Students or whatever.
Right.
They So another thing that, and Mary, the least thing I think Mary asked a question. Mary's online, joining us from Cody, and she always has such great questions. But she's just said between Snapchat and Instagram, she wonders if it helps if you begin the process face to face, so that everybody kind of understands what's going on and gets up to speed before you have a, before it's all online or whatever. And I think that's probably true, but I do think this might be an incredibly valuable thing for an online class because you have students everywhere. Right, all over the place that could be taking pictures of. I had a class when I was doing my doctoral work with Landra and John Kokenauer, and they had a class where they wanted students to go out and take pictures of tombstones because these were very historical
markers.
Yeah, historical markers, but they're visual literacy. Really incredible for visual literacy on tombstones. And I was thinking about that the other day when I was thinking about this presentation and about how you could have. They could have had students, now they couldn't, right? Then they had students take the pictures and then may or may not actually get them back if it was a distance class. But now you could do this and you could have all the students tag them and send them to an Instagram site and you could have them all in one place and we could all look at them really easily. So that was so there's ways I think it has some application. Go ahead, Debbie.
Yeah, a few years ago there was a American space, like a story. Architecture where it was an Instagram.
Right. Right, exactly. So the ability to use it both. I think that Mary's right that in some level it's easier to teach them and get this climate going, but you could actually have maybe a more, a much broader, interesting series of pictures if you had it from everywhere, from wherever your students are. It may not work for microbiology because they don't have microscopes and stuff, but they take pictures of phones and blue.
Online biochem that I use. Yeah. And students often will do things like extract DNA from strawberries with vodka. That kind of thing could be quickly photographed and sent off that way if you wanted to. So it's all about just embracing the creative approach to sharing. Because again, this evolved through students finding the best solutions to what they considered a problem or a need. Alan?
Have you used any of the video?
No, we haven't done video, but you can.
I was just wondering if you could.
Yeah, and it would be cool to get some shots, particularly early in the class. We do a little more with wet mounts and protease that, showing the motility would be really cool. Yeah. Idea.
So because it's open source, if you're taking pictures of our artwork, then there's no way to protect that, right? So anybody can have access to it, theoretically speaking, and get the idea to download it, but you can't copyright it.
Right, this is very open source, and that's pretty much everything I do in micro is pretty open source.
So all the questions that would be then, so is there any way to troll through Snapchat or whatever, Instagram, and like put down pictures of birds or something, and find other sites and lots of pictures of birds? Can you not?
Oh yeah.
That way?
I think you can. Yeah, I can search it that way.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't used it that way, but.
Yeah. Search it by
topic or
But I can foresee that if you wanted to maybe make an image gallery within wild courses so that it's protected, that would be
there's lots of other ways to collect pictures. There's lots of ways to create pictures and create a photo album and stuff like that. This was just really unique in that it's really easy using tools that students are using. And so there's all kinds of other things we can do. We can create a photo album in wild courses where people can upload stuff. We can do all kinds of stuff, but it's got some big advantages because it's just like really easy and fast for students.
And a big
students can also contribute by they don't have to have Instagram either. They can actually just email the picture or text the picture to the girl who's running it, and she can put it up too. So.
One of the most important things about kind of a problem-based strategy for teaching is that it generally includes going public with your work, and that going public often leads to an increased quality of what students are doing. So actually showcasing, what your students have achieved in an open way where you are going public with the work, whether that be a blog. And Chrissy's actually, I was going to mention, we've also built a kind of adjunct faculty in PNR, and this semester for the very first time we taught a course that was integrated problem-based curriculum, study abroad, very novel, in which we used a blog where the students would publish with all the things that they were learning in that class, particularly through the abroad portion. And so in that act of going public and really actually sharing things, you know, like in art, as you would when you did a public display, and I'm using the exact term for that, but that can be really meaningful in enhancing the quality of students' work because they know that you're not the only one assessing them. And we become a little bit like wallpaper with time in the classroom where it's like, oh, I'm sure this is good enough for Rachel to give me a B. But if you say, no, we're going to showcase it publicly, then suddenly that quality goes up to an A++ because they know they'll be assessed broadly. Cool. Anything else? Just conversation or thoughts?
I was just wondering about voice thread. Is that very different from this secondary voice that I read about, but you can...
So she was asking about VoiceThread. VoiceThread. It's a software. It's another software. And it's not exactly the.
It's not the same kind of idea.
It's not the same kind of idea. VoiceThread allows you to integrate pictures and voice together. This one is just strictly doing pictures. I mean, and possibly video. We haven't done video. Well, they put the text. They put the text on when they put the. You can put the text on by either labeling the Instagram photo itself,
It's very
or labeling it on
like
Snapchat.
Things, right?
Very caption, yes.
Yeah, but does VoiceThread allow you write a longer, like a paragraph kind of?
Well, you can with VoiceThread, you're less likely to do a paragraph, more likely to say it. Just using
like
voice.
recording your
It's a different way of going about it.
Yeah.
And these, I mean, it would be a different way of going about it. Like I said, there's lots of ways of going about the same kind of thing. VoiceThread would be different entirely, though, because it wouldn't be a gallery of pictures. This is creating a gallery of pictures.
So these are all the pictures, and the VoiceThread will let you have the pictures
and audio, and it kind of makes one long story. I can explain it to you sometimes.
Yeah, like
it's kind of. Yeah. Anybody else? Let's see. So Mary doesn't have a question. She just has a comment. She says, you know, she thinks world religion pictures would be great.
Yeah.
She teaches the religion studies classes. What I know in the online environment that there is a spread between early adopters and reluctant adopters, and it impacts the introduction of new tools.
Yeah. And I think for me, I've always enjoyed using technology in a really optional way, because this way they are making really good use of this, but I'm not grading them. You know, extra credit is the most that they ever get for this. So a student that would prefer to just draw in their lab manual and doesn't want to take photos with their smartphone, doesn't have a smartphone, there isn't any penalty for that. So that's one really nice way to comfortably integrate technology is to have it be an optional component until you know that everyone has the technology and they're able to do that. I don't know. Even I like it to be fun. I always like to be fun, and that's one really good way to do that.
So this is extra credit.
Yeah. Well, so honestly, let's see if I can summarize. It's honestly just inspiration in a lot of ways. It's really just something that they want to do. They want to have a good record. What they see it's just so rad. I mean, they look at this stuff and they're like, oh my God, this is a whole new world, and I'd really like to keep record of it. So in many ways, it's just purely inspiration that keeps them going on. They love it. It's just cool. But here are some of the ways that it gets integrated and might impact a grade. One, I do a competition. And so on a final exam, one way, amongst many, that you can earn extra credit is to win the photo competition. So there's a kind of good-natured photo competition. Two, if they want to use it in their lab manual, like as I pass that around, they can use that instead of drawing, and I allow that. So that would be an alternative means of recording what you've seen. Also, when we do reports, lab reports, I'll either invite an accurate sketch and observation or a photograph and observation. So a photograph can be submitted as results, but it isn't required.
What's interesting about that is, when did you start this? Was this semester?
No, it's been a while, but the Snapchat, Instagram has been very recent. So
You have 100 posts on
Yeah.
Central Next.
right. Right.
So that makes
And
100 posts.
it's just so cool that if you get jazzed about something, I promise you, your students will get jazzed too. And every couple weeks, we remind them in lab, hey, check out that picture. It's like, oh, you know, they'll say, look at this picture I got, Rachel. I'm like, oh, whoa, that is way too cool to not share that with others. Send it along to the Instagram site, you know? And it's sharing. It's just sharing. You ask, well, why do you have so many photos getting uploaded on Facebook every day? It's not graded, but you like to share. And I think it's that spirit of wanting to go public with what you're seeing and be affirmed in the coolness of what you're seeing.
One of the things that I think has something that I want to report all is on Instagram you're able to like and give a thumbs up basically it's hearts on
Hard.
and make comments. And I think that has some real interesting applications for how you might set the class. You know, I mean, essentially Rachel could make her photo content be the one that gets hearts.
Right.
You know, and how that changes people's inspiration to it.
Yeah.
You know, like, and to look at them, both to look at them and participate and really interesting crowdsourcing ways that we haven't really.
Yeah, and I'll just affirm that this was the first semester. This semester was the first time we had the Instagram going. So using, you know, the idea of taking photos is not new this semester, but actually sending them to Instagram. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And so it's I don't know, I think in many ways it's one manifestation of students falling in love with microbiology. It's easy to do.
Yes. Okay, so you have a little bit break for a little bit ask questions. If you answer much questions already, but if you have questions or comments,
Well, if any, I'll hang around for just 10 minutes or so, and if you have just things that you didn't want to ask with the whole group, I'm here.
Oh, nice.